Do you know that in the European Union and in our country we have Kremlin henchmen and spies and pro-Russian warmongers among us? Do you know that this is why Czech Commissioner Jourová had to go on a European tour of democracy? And do you know that, according to her, the alternative media parrot and promote Kremlin themes? Let's get to it. You probably did not miss the Czech government's announcement that the BIS has managed to expose an influence group. According to the Prime Minister, its aim was to carry out actions and activities on the territory of the European Union against the territorial integrity, sovereignty and independence of Ukraine. The BIS report points to the Voice of Europe website, which had long sought to influence public opinion in a number of European countries, including the Czech Republic. The content was controlled and funded directly by the Russian Federation. And the government put it on a sanctions list last week. Politicians who gave interviews to the server prior to the announcement, such as Václav Klaus and Jindřich Reichel, are described by journalists as Kremlin stooges. The BIS report also states that one of the aims of the propaganda disseminated by the Kremlin was to influence the European Parliament elections. It is Russia's influence on the European Parliament elections that the European Commission is concerned about. Specifically, its chairwoman, the Czech European Commissioner and member of the ANO movement, Věra Jourová. Not only does she warn against Russian propaganda, but she has also embarked on a pre-election tour of European Union countries called the Democracy Tour. Jourová says in one breath that elections to the European Parliament are the responsibility of the member states, but she also warns against manipulation and interference. She fears that citizens could be manipulated or deceived by foreign interference. She cited the example of the Alternative for Germany and the governments of Hungary and Slovakia. She is most worried about the German AfD. Incidentally, it was its leading politician, Peter Byström, who was identified by the BIS as one of the partners through whom the Russian influence network was allegedly trying to influence the upcoming European Parliament elections. Byström himself described the accusations of the Czech Secret Service as nonsense. However, according to EU Commissioner Jourová, the AfD is adopting Russian narratives, and if Germany were to turn its back on Ukraine, the European Union would be in big trouble. That is why she will also visit Berlin in the spring as part of her democracy tour. Politico recalls that the AfD has called for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine, closer cooperation between Germany and Moscow, a halt to arms shipments and sanctions, and a resumption of Russian gas imports. The party has repeatedly denied that it represents Russian interests. However, Věra Jourová argues that Russia is a master of propaganda, and that if the investment in changing the political representation in Germany were successful, it would have a major impact on the whole of Europe. If the AfD is very successful in the European elections, the arithmetic alone says that this could make a big difference. So this is, of course, a source of concern, the European Commissioner said literally. The Russian narrative will also be taken up by the governments of Hungary and Slovakia, according to Jourová. She is particularly bothered by the fact that Slovak politicians use alternative media rather than the public media. According to Jourová, the alternative media parrot Kremlin themes and promote them. For the Kremlin, according to Jourová, they also want peace because those who call for peace want to stop supporting Ukraine. On the other hand, Commissioner Jourová said that Finland should be a model for us, as it is said to educate its citizens in media literacy from kindergarten to the toilet. The Finns have the resilience to listen to disinformation in their DNA because they know Putin's script to the back of their minds, the Czech EU Commissioner said. And the fear of Russia softening into a Eurovol is such that the European Parliament should also address it. We have just shown you an example of how far the perception of sovereign decision-making by citizens in individual countries has shifted through the Brussels lens. Anyone who gives an interview to a server who was not on any sanctions list is a toady of the Kremlin. Those who do not vote according to Brussels have pro-Russian shills in government. And whoever calls the ceasefire talks is a Kremlin spy. And whoever wants peace does not want to support Ukraine.